welcome to Diva's Two Cents, where we take these complicated matters of life and break them down for the masses, for those of you out there to really comprehend and digest. We air every Friday at 4 p.m. Central Time. So if there's something that you hear today or at any of our shows and it resonates with you, please share it, like it. There are people in your family, friends, and families, and even your enemies that may need to hear this information. Okay. Well, today, I am Diva Mejias, and I am so pleased and so honored by the fact that I have Amber, the tax lady, with me today. And I want to bring her on so she can tell you who she is and what she does. Hold on one second. Here goes. Hello, Amber. How are you?
I am good, Miss Diva. How are you? Happy
I'm
Wednesday.
fine.
Oh, happy Thursday. Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Well, here's my two cents. Amber, the tax lady, she is the founder of Whitehead Tax and Financial Services LLC. Amber, where are you located?
I am in Connecticut. My office is in Vernon, Connecticut.
Oh, Connecticut, the East Coast. Yeah.
Yes, I'm on the East Coast.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the East Coast. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, so I know Connecticut very
Oh,
well. I worked for UPS up and down the coast, so I was in Connecticut a lot. So I know where
oh,
you're at. So that's really great. I
okay,
want,
nice.
before we even start with anything tax related, I need to ask you. I really, really like your logo. I love the word Whitehead Tax and Financial Services. Why did you pick that? Besides it probably being your name.
Well, yeah, and that was really it. And initially when I started the business, I knew I wanted to do tax, but I knew I wanted to do something else financial related, so that's why I kind of kept it. But as you know, when you start a business, you kind of like evolve to other things. Because the financial piece was supposed to be like credit repair, helping people budget and things of that nature. But I am more strictly like tax advisory and resolution and things of that nature.
Yeah, I know. So you are a certified tax advisor?
Yes.
You see, you want to keep that secret. And a tax resolution specialist as well?
Well, yeah, so I'm a EA, IRS enrolled agent. So that means my license comes directly from the IRS. So
Yeah,
that is why I'm able to prepare taxes throughout the US and also represent you in any tax matters, whether it's an audit or you have struggling with tax debt.
that's fantastic. Now, I understand that you do have a little niche that you like to dabble with, and that is the medical profession. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I primarily service private practice owners that are in the medical mental health industry. So that's mental health therapists, that's psychiatric nurses, APRNs, people who have direct care facilities and stuff like that.
Wow, that's a good niche. That's a very
Yeah.
good niche. Now, what is one or a couple of deductions that someone in the health profession might be overlooking or even be seeking that may they should not be seeking? Give us a little insight to that whole mental, medical field.
Right. So one of the main deductions that I see oftentimes missed is mileage, right? And it's because for some reason they think that if they have a physical office where they go and see their clients, that they can't claim their home office, so they don't worry about claiming all the mileage really, and so they don't think they have any mileage, or even if they are totally 100% telehealth, they're like, I don't go anywhere. But when you understand the tax law and what it means to truly have a home office, that is where you really unlock a lot of your mileage.
I know. Especially, well, they do go from place to place. They leave their home and then they go client to client to client. So yeah, they should be tracking those miles. Any particular way you tell them to track it? Because I know as a tax professional, sometimes you ask folks, how many miles did you drive last year? And they do one of these, like, let me see. And
Yeah.
you tell them, hey, it's not written up there. It better
Right.
be
Like,
somewhere else.
right. I usually, or sometimes they're like, oh, I did 3,000 miles or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But no, the way that I tell them to do it going forward is to use a mileage app tracker. The one I recommend is Miles IQ because it's a simple swipe left and right when you want to categorize if it's a business or personal trip, right? But
Yeah.
if they don't have any, if they weren't using a mileage app, then what I tell them to do is kind of reconstruct the year at like look at the places that you went to, like your appointments, how many times did you go to the office, and use Google Maps to calculate, the round trip, so that at least we add something to the return. It may not be all of the mileage, but at least we're going to put something there because that's easy to calculate.
It's funny that you say that because I have a habit of what I do just before the football, the Super Bowl. I
Mm-hmm.
usually call some of my clients that I know are horrendous with this. And I tell them, hey, while you're looking at the Super Bowl, pull out a calendar. Going through your calendar, and as in between, while you're watching those commercials, start jotting
Right.
down and documenting. You so they kind of associate, fun, something fun, and something that they don't want to do at the same time.
Oh,
I get it.
that's nice. I like that trick.
And I usually give them a calendar too. So, but that's awesome. So tell me, how did you get into the tax business? Because I understand you started very young.
Yeah. So when I got my first job when I was 16 years old, I was working at Kinko's. And of course, when you work, you have to file taxes. And so I was just like, let me do this. And it was easy for me. And from there, I just started doing like some of my friends that was in, high school with me, and some of even my family, right? Um, and I didn't realize that was a gift, right? Because when I think of a gift, I think like you know how to sing well, or you play an instrument well, or you know how to act. I was like, taxes, how is that a gift, right? But eventually I just started noticing that I had a knack for it, and it came natural to me. And so I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Because what's so funny, Diva, is that I wanted to be a therapist. Like I wanted to go to school for psychology, right?
Oh,
Until
wow.
I
Okay.
took I took accounting in my junior senior year in high school, and that's when I was like, OMG, like I like this. This feels good to me. And so that's when I ended up just pursuing getting my degree in accounting.
Oh my gosh, that's unbelievable. But you see, I'm a true believer that numbers tell stories. So that's my mantra. Numbers tell stories. Tell me what
Yeah.
story am I looking at here by looking at your numbers? And do you, as an entrepreneur, know what your numbers are? But not only an entrepreneur, even the individuals, the W-2 employees that they need to understand where their money goes
Yes.
and how to minimize those taxes. A misconception that W-2 employees can't get tax breaks. Is that not so? Is that not a tech misconception?
It is a misconception because there are certain things that W2 employees can do to minimize their deductions, right? If they're in position where they can itemize, meaning that they have, mortgage interest, property taxes that's going to exceed their standard, that's one way to do it. If they don't have a lot of charitable deductions, there is an awesome strategy that I just used for one of my clients. It's called the LCD, leverage charitable deduction. So she contributed 25 K as an investment, and now she's going to get $100,000 in charitable contributions that she can use. So it really comes down to working with a professional that understands, all the different strategies that are out there, because they are limited for W2 owners.
Yeah.
I mean, employees. I'm so
Right,
used to
right,
saying
right. So,
owners.
so say the name of that strategy one more time because you really said it fast.
Oh, it's called the LCD, leverage charitable deduction.
Leverage charitable deduction. Okay, guys, go out there and look it up. Call Amber, find out what that's all about.
Yep.
Wow.
It's
So,
pretty awesome.
let me ask you this. And I was looking at your website, and it said hours of operation for the off-season time. I know there's no off-season, even though we tell people we're off-season. But what is this that you do on Tuesday evenings?
Oh, so I do a thing called Tax Tuesday on Facebook Live underneath my personal name. So if anyone wants to follow me, just put in Facebook Amber the Tax Lady, and I'll definitely come up. And I'm really big on educating the masses, because one of the things that I learned, because I didn't grow up with entrepreneurs in my family. So I'm really technically the first one in my family that has a business. So I had to learn all of this stuff myself. And as you know, when you go to college, they don't teach you really how to run a business and things of that nature. So I noticed that there was a lot lack of tax education when it was around business owners. And to me, you need that foundation very early on, so that way you don't make mistakes and build bad habits. So that is the whole point of me doing Tax Tuesdays, is I just pick a random topic and I just kind of discuss it throughout, on the live.
And I know that you do some speaking at some universities, right? So what do you speak about?
So it all depends. Like, people ask me to speak about best practices when it comes to owning a business. I've talked to high school students so that way they know how to file their taxes and not get their parents in trouble, right? Because as you know, there's a myth out here that a lot of parents think once their child turns 18 that they can't claim them anymore. And I'm like, no, right? And so if you don't tell that student or that child how to file, you may end up messing up when your parents needs to file the tax return. So I try to provide that education. So it's just a random anything. I'm here to talk about whatever.
I know that, the thing about the college student is, especially the freshman college student, that all of a sudden now they're independent and they really feel independent. And hey, I was there. I was there at one time where I thought I knew it all and I knew more than
Right.
my parents. So they go ahead and they file their taxes. Oh, I did it. I did it. Don't worry about it, mom. I got it. But they don't
Yeah.
put down that that they're their parents. They're a dependent on another tax return. So when their
Yeah.
parents file, it rejects because somebody
Rejects.
else has taken that tax number, tax social security number already. So yeah, that is important for these individuals, these youngsters to understand. And another thing that youngsters need to understand is, they go to college and they start messing around with things they shouldn't be messing around. And I say this because I had a client at one point, Amber, where the mother was sitting here and the daughter was sitting there. And when you're filing for the educational credit, the American Opportunity credit, you
Hmm.
can't have a felony. And
Yeah.
normally, as you're asking the questions, you're rambling through, okay, did you go halftime at the minimum of halftime? Okay, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And you're doing it so fast, and you're like automatically going to go to the no. And the young
Right.
lady says, oh my gosh, that felony is going to follow me all my life. And before I knew it, the mother went, what, to the young lady? It was like,
Oh my God.
she didn't even think of it. They didn't even think of it. So, young people out there, if you're out there in college, beware of what you do. Everything you do have consequences. Every
True.
decision you make has a financial consequence,
It
right?
does.
Now, what is something that they overlook, that some of your clients overlook when they are preparing or even starting a business? Or give me a common thing that they overlook.
Right. So actually, I talked about this yesterday in my Tax Tuesday when I was kind of just going over like all the different structures that you can be in. And one of the things that I find in the private practice industry is that, when you first start a business, you don't really know if one, you're gonna like doing it, right? You don't know if it's actually gonna bring you money in. So sometimes you go in and you just go as a sole proprietor, but then the mistake that's made is when you become, if you do it as a sole prop and you get an EIN number attached to that sole prop, you are going to make your life harder, because when you are in growth stage and we want to convert you over to an S corp, you need to have an LLC. Now, when you do your LLC, you now have to get a new EIN number. You can't use that sole prop EIN number, and that messes up with the private practice owners because that EIN number is tied to their NPI number, it's tied to their insurance providers, it's tied to their bank account. So it's like a whole big thing that you have to do to like get that all updated. And sometimes it's almost as hard at, well, I want to say hard time consuming as when you get married and you need to change your last name and all. Just think about all the things that you have to do to update your last name, right? So it's kind of the same thing. So I always just say, one, you in the medical mental industry, you should never be a sole prop, right? Because that's too much liability. So you should start off with an LLC if your state allows it, because I think California is one of those funny states where you can't be an LLC. You have to be a
Mhm.
PC,
Mhm.
professional corporation.
Right.
But you need to have that so that way, one, you don't have to worry about changing your EIN number at the end of the day.
Right, right. And you know, and for the listeners out there, we and Amber and I, neither one of us are attorneys. So what we're talking about is on the tax side of the business, not the legal structure, how to do this or how to do that. So that's just a little disclaimer there. So from a
Right.
tax perspective, yeah, you're absolutely right. And from a tax perspective, can someone in the mental health industry deduct their own therapy?
Oh, see, that is very, very controversial, right? Because when you look at it from the IRS perspective, they're like, you would go to therapy regardless, right? Because that's one of those things. It's like you can't deduct going to the gym, right? You can't unless there's a certified medical reason why you need to go to the gym or why you need to do these things. And so if you're trying to deduct your therapy, you would really have to prove to the IRS that this is required, like the association that you're a part of. So, like if you're a marriage therapist, then the Association for Licensed Marriage and Therapists would have to say, "Hey, we recommend that LMNTs do their own therapy," right? I think it should be a write-off because, like, when you're dealing with clients who have mental issues, sometimes it hits you internally, right? Mentally and physically, that you need to talk to someone to help you bring you back down to level so that way you can still be an asset to your clients.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So now, do you have these type of clients? Let's say in the nursing, do you go to the hospitals and get these like in groups, or do these nurses and mental professionals seek you out? Is it more like a referral?
Yeah,
How do
so
you
far
find
it's
them?
been yeah, so far it's all been referral based. Um, my name is really strong in the Facebook groups that are dedicated to the medical and mental, so I get a lot of referrals from there. And then just my clients that I have now refer me out to their own peers.
Wow. Okay, that's exciting though, right?
Yeah.
It is exciting. You know what's exciting, and for those of you listening, is you're probably thinking that the tax world is a boring topic. Amber and I both are certified tax advisors. So I can tell you for me, numbers, that's my passion. And from
Right.
listening to Amber, how she really enjoyed it as a young lady, and that's what drove her into the industry. There's different strokes for different folks. The colors are on all different colors of the rainbows, and some people like pink and some people like green. So
Right.
we just happen to like numbers because they do tell stories. It's a matter of understanding what to do with the numbers because it's only like 10 digits, right? Zeros or nine. I mean, really, it's not, you know, have like the alphabet has more letters
Right.
than the numbers that we deal with. It's just what to do with them and how to work the tax code.
Right.
Now, Amber, as an EA, you can go and help people and go and represent them in front of the IRS. Any particular crazy thing that you could think of, or some tidbit that you want to give a client who has gotten that dreaded letter saying they're going to be in the examination process?
So they're going through the examination process. One, I would say this: never ignore any letter that you may get from the IRS, right? Because you don't know if it's a balance due letter, you don't know if it's an examination letter, and you don't want to get it to the point where if it's a balance due letter and you've just been ignoring them, and then like the last letter you get is, hey, we're about to garnish your wages or levy your bank account. You don't want to do that. Right. Or wake up in the morning and find out that you have no money in your account because that has happened to people. And then with the exam, they give you a certain amount of time to respond so that way you can, defend yourself and what it is. So you want to be proactive, and you definitely want to seek counsel, whether that's an EA or tax attorney or a CPA, but you definitely need a credentialed person to help you go through that process.
Yeah, yeah. I understand that. I always tell people don't ignore them. Talk to them. Even if you just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, look, I can't get to you right now. I'm looking for help." But call them. Don't just ignore
Yeah.
them, because some of these letters are machine generated. So they're
Yeah.
automatically generated. So even though that they're generated that way, you need to respond, because the machine is just going to go 30, 60, 90. Before you know it, you're too far into the process to have
Right.
anybody give you any help, right?
Right. And
Now,
that's
how,
what you don't want to happen.
how do people get a hold of you, young lady? We're going to put it in the chat.
Yep. Whiteheadtax.com.
And phone number or email.
Amber is Amber at whiteheadtax.com.
Okay. And do you have a phone number that you take calls at, or you prefer email?
I prefer email.
Okay, perfect, perfect. I can't thank you enough. Is there any last tidbit or last anything you want to leave the audience with?
Yes, my mantra is you have to be proactive, right? We have to stop being reactive with our taxes, waiting to January, February to get your stuff together, because you lose out on the opportunity to have strategies implemented to help reduce your liability. So you can't cry about it when you owe all this money when you file your 2024 tax return next year if you did nothing about it this year. So be proactive. We're 4 months out until the end of this year. Reach out to someone, do a strategy, find out where you're going to land for next year. So that way, at least you're prepared for it.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, listen, take it. And there's a saying that the shoemaker never has good soles on their shoes, right? So as tax
Mm,
professionals, we too struggle with what you struggle. We struggle with, oh, I got all this paper I got to put together. I got all these deductions I got to look for. But you know what? You got to step up and say, you know what? Maybe I don't need to watch that movie this weekend, or maybe I could take an hour in the morning or an hour in the evening. I know I talked about the football games, but only because I don't like football. But besides the point, I figured you could do anything during a football game. But take it serious. It's really, really serious, and it's your money. It's your
yes.
money. Why give it away? Amber, I am so glad that you are the Amber, the tax lady. I am so happy that I met you. I'm happy that you have agreed to be on this show. Thank you. Thank you so
No,
much.
thank you.
And that, my friend, is Diva's Two Cents.